please come on up. We can. You. No, you're okay. We'll take a minute. You tell me when. No, no problem. I'll slowly set up my stuff here. So
Take your time.
I'll take my time.
Lay it all out.
Yeah. No, you're good. I'm going to give you a couple of minutes. Are you there?
Yeah.
Okay.
We're good now. Sorry about that.
No, you're good. That happens.
Beat up dingy one as well.
Check, testing.
Are you good?
Right there, yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're most welcome.
Check. Sorry.
Nope, you're good. Are we good? Yeah. Are you good? Nope. Okay.
Thank you.
Of course. You want me to give you a little sound check? You're good? Yes? Are you good? Okay, all right. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for coming here. My name is Sim Gill. I'm the Salt Lake County District Attorney, and we are going to do a debriefing and a walkthrough on a use of force from May 22nd of this year involving officers Mark Ingersoll and Wyatt Kesty's use of force from the Salt Lake City Police Department. This incident of use of force was investigated by our task force led by the Unified Police Department of Greater Salt Lake. This use of force impacted one Christian Thomas Allen. And before I start my briefing, I just want to say that we did have an opportunity to meet with the decedent, Mr. Allen's ex-wife, and brief her as well earlier. And she, of course, was very thankful for all the efforts that's been put into that. So here are the facts that were developed by the team. On May 27th of this year at 12:12 a.m., a female who we'll refer to as CA called 911 and reported that her husband, Christian Thomas Allen, was breaking into her house and she had a protective order. He had threatened to kill her and he had just broke through the house. This call came in at approximately 12:12 a.m. Salt Lake City police officers were dispatched to the call and advised that the complainant's ex-husband was breaking into the house. They had a protective order against him and that she would be in the son's room, that there were two children with her, ages 15 and 17 years old, and that the male was also saying that he was going to light the house on fire, that he was now inside the house via the back door. As the officers were en route, dispatch further advised that the male was actively trying to break into the room that the complainant and the kids were in and had gasoline in the house with him. At approximately 12:19 a.m., Officer Ingersoll approached the residence where a white van parked in the driveway was running. And let me just pause here for a second. It would be later learned that Mr. Allen had actually gone to a Chevron station earlier and had doused himself with gas and had carjacked this particular van and gotten into it. And that he had done so at approximately 12:05 and arriving at the house by approximately 12:12, which is consistent with a 911 call. So there was about a 7-minute lap between the time that he had stolen that vehicle and gotten there. After hearing muffled yelling, Officer Ingersoll called out, "Hey, police," and then took cover behind a vehicle in the driveway and radioed, "He's in the front living room." Officer Ingersoll arrived there before everybody else, so he now was waiting for backup to get there. At approximately 12:20 a.m., as he remained behind the vehicles in the driveway, Officer Ingersoll radioed, "He's in the front of the living room," and then further advised, "I cannot see any of the kids with him, only him." Officer Ingersoll then called out police department. At approximately 12:21 a.m., Officer Kesty advised that he was arriving, and Officer Ingersoll told him to just roll up right to the house. He already knows we're here. As Officer Kesty then approached the residence, Officer Ingersoll advised he was in this front, and then he ran over there. After Officer Kesty asked where the family is at, Officer Ingersoll responds, "I don't know. I haven't seen them." And they said that they said they went in the back. I'm assuming he's going to bail out the back. Officer Kesty then advises that he's going to go around the back. At approximately 12:22 a.m., as Officer Kesty headed to the back of the residence, Officer Ingersoll called out to another arriving officer, Officer Matteau, to contain the front and advised that he was in the front room. So you have a dynamic situation as the officers are arriving. You're going to have some that are going to break off and some that are going to be in the front. At the back of the residence, Officer Kesty and Ingersoll observed a broken ground-level basement window, and Officer Ingersoll observed, "There's the window right here." He went in the basement. After hearing a banging sound, Officer Ingersoll asked if they kicked the front door to an officer at the side of the front. And Officer Kesty steps away from the back door. Officer Kesty then advises over the radio, there is an active kicking doors in the basement, and he's perceiving that somebody's kicking, but he's thinking it's in the basement. And as Officer Ingersoll decides to kick the door, Officer Ingersoll then kicked the back door open. Meanwhile, about the exact same time, Officer Matteau kicked the front door open. Observed Mr. Allen in the hallway, this is Officer Matteau, with a knife raised up, and then called out over the radio he had a knife. Upon entering, Officer Ingersoll in the back and Kesty immediately began calling out that they were police as they moved past the top of the basement stairs. And we will show that to you in the video. As Officer Ingersoll entered the kitchen, he observed Mr. Allen holding a knife in his right hand in a small hallway off the opposite end of the kitchen, where the bedroom and the family were barricaded. Officer Ingersoll immediately began yelling commands of, "Get on the effing ground, drop the knife, drop the effing knife." As he did so, Mr. Allen raised the knife and began charging towards him across the kitchen. As Mr. Allen charged with the knife raised in his right hand, Officer Kesty also entered the kitchen, and Officer Ingersoll and Kesty fired their handguns. And our download would show that approximately 12 shots were fired collectively between the two officers. Mr. Allen fell to the ground and face up with the knife falling to his right. Officer Matteau, who had approached through the front, approached the kitchen doorway from the front room, called out shots fired. Officers, after shots were fired, officers located C.A. and her 17 and 15-year-old sons in a bedroom and had them exit out the front of the residence. Officers applied handcuffs and began rendering emergency medical aid to Mr. Allen. However, he was ultimately declared deceased on the scene. Officer Kesty and Officer Ingersoll refused to be interviewed by the protocol investigation or make a statement, as is their constitutional right to remain silent and is presumed of any wrongdoing. So that is sort of the general facts, and at this time we will just show you some of the videos that we had. One of the other things, so let me just go ahead and start this first one. This is going to be Officer Ingersoll's body-worn camera. As I mentioned, he was the first officer to arrive at the scene, and then he's going to hold position. He will perceive him, Mr. Allen, in the living room, and then he will sort of wait because he's waiting for backup to arrive. So go ahead and please run that. And that's the stolen Chevron van. As he gets there, let's see, do we have the sound? Oh. So that was his reaction because he sees him in that living room. So he backs up to the side of the car because he's there only by himself at this time. So he's waiting for backup. And you can hear that. He's communicating. He's in the front living room over dispatch. Can't see the kids, only him. He's trying to yell to get his attention while still holding containment and waiting for other backup officers to arrive. As he hears the officers coming up, he tells Officer Kesty, just roll on up. He already knows that we're here. So he just wants to get the second officer on the scene as quickly as he can, not have to walk down there.
He was in this front, he ran over there. We need one, at least two to cover the back. I don't know. Adams said they went in the back. I'm assuming he's gonna bail out the back. Okay?
And simultaneously,
Stay in the front. Go to the back. This guy.
he's yelling to the other officers. So he and Officer Kesty are going to start walking to the back here. As soon as they get there, he thinks the door is open, but it's just a storm door. But right there on the right, he will see a window that's been broken. Right there.
Nope. Was that our front door? Did we kick the door?
He's hearing now noises, which will later be determined that there was a dog downstairs.
Do it. Okay.
And so now he hears the, so So one thing to just keep in mind, this is like a fisheye camera, so it has a tendency to elongate the frame. But when you're actually in there, it's actually a highly compressed space. So it's not very far as it looks over there. The other thing to just keep in mind, which you'll see, is that you see the other officer right there, because what's happening is there is, and what we know also from Officer Matto and the other officers who are on the front, they're hearing those noises as well. And so it's almost simultaneously that they will end up kicking that, but doors. but they also hear this a noise that's happening inside. So they're trying to make sense, and they're seeing this is getting to be an exigent circumstance. And through the other body-worn camera, you'll be able to see that there was a dog, actually, when that window was broken and he made entry, that dog was there, down there, and that contributed to that noise. Okay, so go to this one. This is now from Officer Ingersoll's body-worn camera. It is slowed down. So what this is at the initial breach from the back, and as he moves into the kitchen area, he will pivot to the right, and so we just slowed that down. So you can see him right there. You can see the knife in his hand. He's realizing that they're there. You can continue to see the knife. He's got the knife raised up, and he's coming at them. And now this is the other officer. And that compressed, again, slowed down, starts to appreciate how compressed that space is and how close Mr. Allen actually comes down to that. And again, that was really instructive for us, again, not only from the subsequent interviews that we did with the family members, and I can talk about that a little bit. The room that he was in, actually at the end of the hall, to the right is the room that had the lock on there, and Mom and her two children are there. The across the room was the room of one of the sons, and subsequently we would be told through the interview that they can hear him coming in, so they went and locked themselves, and the two boys were bracing shut the door. And Mr. Allen had gone into the other son's room, and they can hear him smashing stuff and rummaging things. They also communicated to us that, and I will share a little bit in a second more, that what he was yelling at them, but they could smell the alcohol. He had doused himself with the alcohol. They could smell the alcohol, and through the dispatch, the mom was saying he was threatening to, she was worried that burn the place down, they were going to get blown up. So the next video that you will see is from Officer Kesty, who was the second shooting officer. So there were the two who will eventually breach, and this was the camera from their body-worn camera. Go ahead, please play that.
What do you got? Where's the pen guy? I don't know. I haven't seen him. He said they went in the back. I'm assuming he's going to go in the back.
So as they are both moving in unison back there, the other officers are already arriving in the front, and they're trying to set up containment.
Is that 2963? Yeah. On the front?
An officer.
Never mind, just the storm door.
And so he will notice the broken window right there. And you can hear,
There's active.
you can hear that in there.
Sorry, 452 is active. Kicking doors into this. Do it. Kick the door.
And again, and there's the dog you can see in that shot there, frame. And so again, this shows, again, both of them there and in the proximity that happens. And as I mentioned, that noise that he's hearing, it is both the noise that's happening inside the house, the noise that's happening at the front door, the noise that he's hearing through the broken window, and the actions from that dog, I believe, as well. So it was all of these things coming together. The next one is, so this is the breach that happens on the back as the shooting occurs. Simultaneously with that, as I mentioned, that I have officers stationed now as they're rolling up on the front door. They hear that as well. And this is the body-worn camera from Officer Matteau. Go ahead and...
Mr. House,
So the other officers are going to be walking up. He can hear. They're going to go this way.
Let's make contact. Salt Lake City Police!
You say you shoot me.
The-
He's back, this is back door right here. Hey, there's active fighting. Oh, bring it in.
He's right there.
Give us the air, he's got a knife, he's got a knife! Fucking act!
This is really instructive to us both because we see the breach that happens from this side, from those two body-worn cameras. This was the other child's bedroom. They're trying to clear. They're locked up in here.
Police, open the door!
They're trying to get the family out.
Come with me. Hey, we're extracting people out. This way. Get out this way. Get out this way. Follow me. Go, 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 go. Wait outside. Quick, quick, quick.
Basement?
This was also, again, very instructive to give us as I mentioned, so what this showed us, as Officer Matteau goes through it, there's that cutout in the wall. So the other officer seeing it down this way, and when Officer Matteau sees him, he actually makes eye contact with him. He turns and looks at them. He's clearly holding the knife in a raised manner, and the other officers who are behind that wall breaching from the back, then the attention of Mr. Allen turns to him. And so Matteau sees them, and he sees them then start to run towards the other officers that we were able to see. And then, of course, Matteau goes to the side, and then, of course, they go back to extract the family members as captured, the two teenage boys and the mom. So the next thing, again, just was from the still, initially when he falls down, you can see the knife that was very close to him right there. That was landed, and it was subsequently moved away by the officers. And then we had another still, that is, go to the next one. That was that kitchen knife that was in their hands. As I mentioned, we also had the opportunity to talk to some of the other officers who were non-shooting officers. We have them, all their interviews fully in our findings in our published document. And the consensus was that they could hear that noise. They felt the urgent need to breach the home. They heard the commands that were being yelled out. They see the knife that's raised, and then, of course, Mr. Allen charging. We were also able to do a debrief with the ex-wife and the two boys. And, of course, she communicated that one of her sons had just gotten there minutes before her ex-husband came there. The son communicates and lets her know that Dad's here. He's trying to get in. They wake up the other child as well. They decide that they're going to go into the back room, which has the lock on it, which is one of the boys' room. They go back and secrete themselves there. Mom gets on the phone, immediately is calling 911 to dispatch, sharing that information. They also shared with us in the debrief that they could hear their dad yelling. They also hear him, they can say we can hear him moving. They talk about how they see him, they hear the sounds of him running, that's prior to the shooting. And they also say that they hear him say, come get me, or something to that effect. The other thing that was really important was, in terms of to really give you a sense of the trauma and the terror these family members were feeling, as the police are arriving, he's trying to break into the door, and the boys are braced up against the door so he can't breach it. And he says to them that, I'm not going to hurt you guys. And this is a quote, I'm not going to hurt you guys. I'm going to let them shoot me, and I'm going to make you guys go through this. And he says he wants them to witness it. So, and he had previously also sort of said, that Mr. Allen had said that he was going to go out by suicide by cop. And of course, piecing it all together, it gave us the full picture of what transpired that night there. So based on all of that, it is our conclusion that this use of force was justified in a highly dramatic and tension-filled and traumatic situation. The officers did exactly what they should have done, which is they're responding to a very volatile situation. You have individuals who are inside the house who are at danger, and as they break through, the confrontation is captured on the body-worn video. With that, I'd be happy to answer questions.
When I first saw the video, I saw the gentleman coming towards the officers, knife in his hand. It looked like to me he was shielding his eyes from the brightness of the flashlight.
Yeah.
How do you determine intention when you see somebody whose actions might conflict?
So that's a great question, and that's why Officer Matteau's video is so important, because Matteau is looking at him this way in a tiny frame, and there's eye contact that's made, and he's got the knife, and he knows the officer's there, and he also is hearing the officers yell, and at that point, he's turning and he is intentionally moving in that direction. He's moving in that direction, right? So the commands are being yelled, and he's moving forward. And like I said, it's a very compressed space. The other thing that becomes really relevant is the statement that I read to you about what he had told the family just seconds before the incident that happens, right? He is there. He's telling them, I'm not going to hurt you, but I'm going to make you watch and experience this, right? And he had previously also said that he wanted to do suicide by cop. And so when you start to add all of these factors together, to us, it's very clear that, yes, there's a brightness that's there, but he's trying to shield the brightness with an intent to not be blinded and go at the officers, right? So he's forward momentum, but he's doing all the actions that are consistent that he's going to get to them. He's not going to comply with them, and he doesn't. And like I said, this is a very compressed space. And when you see it from the perspective of Officer Kesty, who's the shooting officer, Officer Ingersoll is moving backwards past the table that's to the left of him. He has nowhere else to go, and you can actually see from the angle from Kesty how close he actually comes to both of them, and they've really fired at the very last moment that they could, and I think it's very clear to us. Any other questions? Yeah.
Clarifying details. Were they also his kids or just?
Yeah, it's my understanding that was their father. And as I said, again, at that moment we didn't know, but as the investigation went, that van that was there had just been stolen at a Chevron gas station. We actually had the video subsequently when we were able to go back and look at him. He actually comes down, he walks up there, and he starts to pour gas on himself, and there's this person that's there. He eventually carjacks the van and goes there. And there's a 7-minute lapse from the time that he actually takes the van and comes down there, because he didn't have a means to a vehicle, And then, as I said, it was just fortuitous that the son had just gotten there about the same time, just a minute or so before, and he wakes his mom, texts initially and tells his mom, Dad's here, he's trying to get in. And then they start to hear him yelling. They said that he goes to the back. They hear the breaking of the windows. And at that moment, Mom and the 2 boys go to the only room in the back there that had a lock on it. And they go in there and they brace themselves up. And he actually can be heard coming up. And in fact, the boys and Mom says that, and Mom's on the dispatch. She's calling. She's saying, he's here. I can smell gasoline. They weren't certain whether he had a can, but clearly him covered in gasoline. They can smell it. He goes into the other boy's room. He's throwing stuff around, they say. They can hear loud noises that are going on. He's rummaging through stuff. Then he's back at their door, and he's trying to knock them down. And we saw that there were knife marks in the door, that he had actually stabbed in the door. And they're putting up, and he's telling them. In fact, he's saying, I'm not going to hurt you. I'm going to make you watch this and experience this, But
the officers didn't know that.
The officers did not know that. What they knew is that certainly that Subsequently, as the dispatch goes, they start to get communication. There's a protective order. He's inside the house, you know, and they're getting that. And it's the one in one of the footnotes that we had there. Let me. So you know. So on footnote 9, we talk about that dispatch provided additional information in the call dispatch notes at 12:13 a.m. that the male had made threats in the past to kill the complainant. The complainant was in the son's room, and the two kids were in the home were with her, 15-year-old and 17-year-old. It was unknown if he had any weapons, unknown how the male got there, doesn't have a vehicle. And at 12:14 a.m., the male was confirmed to be in the house, and they got through the back door. Both kids were in the common room. So this is happening in real time, right? She's on the phone. She's trying to share that information. Dispatch is trying to share that information as well. But by that time, the officer had already fanned out. The two officers had gone in the back for back containment because they were back there. The officer Matteau and the Hendrickson and another officer, they were up front. They're hearing that. Matteau is hearing the urgency, and that's when he goes, we got to get in there. They can see that. And simultaneously, you've got the officer in the back. And so there is a lot of movement that's occurring, and so they breach the door as that information is coming to them.
And this is outside the scope of your investigation, but can you talk about what resources are available for this woman? I mean, her first instinct is to go hide rather than confront the guy. So obviously there's been prior incidents and she was afraid for her life.
Yeah, you know, that's a great question, Pat. Well, one of the things is when we have domestic relations issues and these kind of volatilities, right? She had a protective order against him. And one of the things that we tell people that there are community resources available. And one of the things that you really want to do is to have a safety plan worked out. So you don't want to be trying to figure out what to do when there's a breach that occurs or when that situation escalates, right? One of the things that you do is you do a safety plan. You go, if something like this happens, what am I going to do? Who am I going to go to? Where am I going to find safety and shelter? And rehearsing that, articulating that, and rehearsing that is really important because when that situation, volatile situation happens, you don't want to be trying to figure out what to do. Right, so that's really important that with the YWCA, with our South Valley Sanctuary, many other community partners, that's one of the things that they will want to do. They will want to say, okay, how can you keep yourself safe? What is the safety plan that you have in place, right? And they really did everything very thoughtfully and responsibly, right? He's there, let's get to safety. She gathered the children, what is the safe spot, got on 911, made the call, was in communication, telling them what was going on, and you know, you know, it's incredible, you know, and I can't imagine how terrifying. You know, when we met with her and we talked to her, right, you know, she wanted to know exactly how, you know, everything. We briefed her on it. I know she was extremely appreciative of the officers. And it's just unimaginable for her and her children to have to go through that. And again, just the training of the officers. This incident is going on. There's a shooting that's occurring. Their focus is on the family. They're getting back there. They're like, let's get them out and let's get them to safety. And so you can hear Officer Matteau talking about we're extracting them, we're getting them out. And so they were trying to do multiple things in a real time sort of way.
Sim, there's a report out today from the Utah Investigative Journalism Project and Utah News Dispatch, which talks about officers failing to activate their body-worn cameras. It seems like body-worn cameras were a critical part of this investigation, specifically because those two officers did not speak with you. Can you just talk about the importance when you're adjudicating or looking at these cases about body-worn cameras? And if you think that Utah laws and statutes are strong enough right now to provide you with enough information to make accurate determinations.
Yeah, so you know you're correct. I mean, body-worn cameras are here; they're not going away. We've been into it in multiple years, and now the anomaly is when you don't have it. So there is utility and value to it, But I also want to be very clear. Body-worn cameras give us one perspective. Body-worn cameras are often stationary. They're either on the chest, it can be on a belt, it can be on a shoulder. They're a fixed point. The human body, my neck is on a pivot. And so what the body-worn camera sees sometimes is not always capturing what the officer is seeing, right? And so it is a tool that is important and critical, right? And then, of course, when we have officers and taxpayers, and we're a public institution and servants, that we want to capture as much information as we can. For me and for my team, and I think ultimately for our community of citizens, having an understanding of what happened, how it happened, and why the use of force was so critical is very important. And this tool helps us do that. As I've said, under our system, every person, you, me, officers, everybody has a constitutional right to not share anything. And that's one of our constitutional rights, right? And I've said on many occasions before, that does not absolve me or my office, I believe, to try to recreate and share in the best way that we can with the community what happened whenever there's a use of force or loss of life, right? So it helps us. It helps us to fill the blanks. It helps us to figure out body positions, spacing everybody. It helps us look at the sequence of events, and it helps us create a reality that sometimes is not forthcoming to us. And so to me, it's an essential tool. It is sometimes a critical tool, and it is a tool that is there to also capture the nuance and the complexity and sometimes the danger that our officers are walking into, and the exigency of the circumstances, like in a situation like this, which is a highly volatile, highly traumatic situation. So I think that genie is out of the bottle, and I think that every agency has to develop their own processes and protocol, and that's how it's being done. And certainly the state could adopt certain threshold basics. Other agencies can go beyond that, but I think having that guidance would be really great to have it as a uniform expectation that we have, right? And I think the more clarity we can have on it, the better. And for those agencies that use it, I think they find it beneficial. Not only this in demonstrating their lawful actions, but when there's a suspicion of unlawful action, this is the best defense that we have about the reality of the truth of what happened, right? So they're an essential component, and I think we just need to lean into it. But with the caveat, there are limitations to it. There are limitations to it. The camera does not always capture the complete truth, but it does capture a lot that can help us to decipher what that truth is. Okay? Any other questions? Okay, thank you.